Hi, my name is Anne Marie Geisser with BGSF, and I am joined here for Women's History Month with Julie McAllister, who is the Senior Director of HR Operations for Chewy. Julie, thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome. Pleasure to be here.
Good. Julie and I wanted to continue this discussion. I feel like all month I've attended lots of seminars and lots of sessions, seen great videos about women in leadership roles, and I just wanted to have a nice conversation with Julie about her experience and how she got to where she is today. So just to jump in and start, Julie, if you could tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into HR, would be a great place to start.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you again for inviting me to participate in this. My career journey is always kind of an interesting story because I actually started out, uh, believe it or not, in reservoir engineering as a technician. You would have
Wow.
never thought that there was a pathway from an engineering career to an HR career. But it actually took the road of finance, took the road of IT and operations. And I finally ended up in HR within the last 10 years. So it's been a really interesting journey. Covers lots of different industries from financial services, e-commerce, retail, consulting, oil and gas, and mining. So a lot of different broad experience. But the real reason that I actually ended up in HR, I was in transition with a company that was going through a difficult time, and we all knew that there was, there were changes coming, and so I was in the process of looking for a new opportunity, and there were three different opportunities that I had at the time. Two were very similar to what I was currently doing, which was actually running the IT PMO organization as well as their overall compliance team from an ITGC perspective. And so I had two roles that were offered actually to me that were much more in that space. And I had one that was a completely different journey, and that was to lead the HR transformation for Hitachi Data Systems. And they were looking distinctly for somebody who didn't have any experience in HR. They wanted somebody who could come in and lead a large-scale transformational program, but do it with a little bit of an unbiased lens from an HR perspective. And so, in looking at those opportunities, I thought to myself, well, this is actually kind of new and intriguing and interesting, and I've always wanted to see what HR is about. So let's go ahead and try this. So I ended up taking the role, and from there, that led to the next three opportunities in HR that have been with American Eagle Outfitters and now with Chewy over the last 10 years of different types of roles. So I think the lesson there is just to keep your mind open, because there's always new pathways or different opportunities if you kind of allow them to present themselves.
That's fantastic. And it's interesting where you and I have known each other since you were at American Eagle. And I think there, the systems were Oracle systems. Here it's Workday systems. It's interesting that not only open mind of engineering to HR, but also the technology, it doesn't matter. It's the job capability and what you're doing. So I think that's fantastic.
Right.
How about talk about, now this is a good one, mentors that you've had, along the way, which I imagine you probably have many different types of mentors with the career progression you've had.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've had both informal and formal mentors throughout my career. Some who I've observed and learned from, some who've actually been like a formal mentor, provided feedback, coaching, guidance. I can remember back when I was very first in the oil and gas industry coming out of college, and I carefully observed one particular person who was the sole female engineer in the company. And she was consistently, a singular voice in the room. And she taught me a lot about how to influence others when you're coming from a different perspective, how to navigate social networks throughout the organization. But some of my favorite mentoring conversations have actually been with my peers, if you can believe it. We learn a lot from each other. I think if we're invested in each other and the organization as a whole, we'll grow and thrive.
I love that. I feel like I've realized as time goes on, I even have, the most junior people on my team that I'm learning things from every day. So I think that's That's fantastic. Now, what advice, speaking of that, and junior people rising up, especially women, as we're celebrating Women's History Month, any advice you take from either your experience or that your mentors have given you that you could share?
Yeah, actually, what I would pass along is some of the best advice that I've personally received. And this advice came from a colleague here at Chewy, Jennifer Underwood, who is our Senior Director of Talent Management. And it's really universal advice that can help anyone navigate their career and even their life choices. And her advice was to have a personal board of directors. And this group of people acts as a sounding board. They advise and provide feedback on your life decisions, opportunities, or maybe challenges. They can help provide unfiltered feedback that you might not necessarily get from others. You get to choose these people, who serve on your board. And she suggested, diverse, different contributions, people that are really going to push your thinking. And there's 4 different specific roles that they play. So the first one is the connector, so one who has like great relationships, who loves to open doors, make introductions, help you grow your network. The second one is an informational powerhouse, so somebody who has like the finger on the pulse of what's going on in the organization, maybe in the broader business environment. They have the intelligence on the trends, projects, opportunities. The third role is the influencer, so someone who can sort of help make things happen. Someone who maybe earns trust and respect in the organization, and somebody that maybe if you needed support on something you could go to and help get that backing. And then the last one is like your mentor from a growth and development perspective. They help give advice, feedback, guidance, really a role model, somebody that you look up to. And these 4 people that can provide you, not just a singular lens from maybe friend, family, maybe your supervisor, right? It just gives you a broader pool of knowledge and perspectives to pull from and to think through.
That's fantastic. I feel like as you're talking about it, I'm thinking in my own life, who are those people for me, and do I have somebody in each of those areas? I'm going to have to go make sure and get somebody if I don't have them. That's great. Thank you. Now, last question I have is, how do you think businesses can benefit from having women in leadership roles?
Yeah. Well, I think we probably broaden that to diversity in leadership roles in total. The more diverse that we can make these leadership positions in the organization, the more that we'll have fresh innovation and ideas, the more that we'll have ability to, break maybe old patterns, old biases in thinking, and become more inclusive in total. So I think that there's so many benefits to having diversity throughout the organization, but more specifically in leadership roles, because people do need to know that it's possible. People do need to know what it looks like, and feel like there's somebody they can relate to. So I think those things are very paramount in thinking about how we fill our leadership roles.
I definitely agree with you, and I think I watched an interview similar to this with our CIO, and she said the same thing. If you keep having the same people in leadership, the same things are going to happen. That in order to make change and make positive growth, you've got to have diversity and more people on board. Well, good. I thank you for your time. I'm so glad we got to sit down and chat,
Absolutely.
and celebrate Women's History Month. Thank you.
Thank you so much.